think to throw all this hate in the rear view. No doubt you'll need someone beside you who's come to terms with all this shit you say and do. We've been running for so long, forgotten how to get along. Staying with you feels so wrong, but now you stay on my mind. You're so sick, you make me itch. I talk, sing, not tired, and my fingers twitch. The thought of you, it burns my skin to the bone. And still you're the one I want to hold. Take it back, too much to unpack. That hate in your head and heart that you lack. The thought of you, it burns my skin to the bone. And I can't leave you alone. So sick, you make me itch. You burn my skin. Still you I want to hold. You're so sick, you make me itch. I talk, sing, I'm tired, and my fingers twitch. The thought of you, it burns my skin to the bone. And still you I want to hold. Take it back, too much to unpack. That hate in your head and heart that you lack. The thought of you, it burns my skin to the bone. And I can't leave you alone. You're so sick, you're selfish, it's endless. Still you're who I want to hold. I miss how we used to be weightless. And I can't leave you alone.
Hello, boys. Welcome. That's a sneak preview for tomorrow. Welcome to another installment of Touchline Talk with your boy, LNobbins. We will be live tonight for a watch-along between Barca and Inter, and tomorrow for the Arsenal. Against, who is it? PSG. Oh, yeah. But in the interim, let's talk about City, shall we? Let's talk about City. Today's show, talking about City, we're actually going to be focusing a little bit on our rivals as well. Now, the reason why I'm doing this is because we have naturally spent a long time as, you know, City fans this season, not just here, but everywhere in the YouTube space and the social media space and the real world space, talking about, you know, this is what City needs to do in the transfer window in order to, you know, become a good side again and to win the title again, blah, 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 blah. And of course, that's a very legitimate thing to talk about. That's why we have talked about it at length. And that's all well and good, but we also sort of need to have a conversation about what do we need to do specifically from the perspective of what level do we actually need to get to. And the only way we can do that is by assessing where our rivals are at. It's all well and good saying City need to get to this level, but in order to be certain as to what this level actually entails, we need to make sure it's actually higher than our rivals. So hopefully that makes sense. The purpose of today's video is to essentially explore how big is the gap between City and Arsenal and City and Liverpool. Obviously, how can City close it? Do we think that, you know, Arsenal, Liverpool are going to get better next year? Where are their weaknesses? Where are their strengths? And that sort of thing. So hopefully that makes sense. As I say, obviously still a focus, on City today, but with a slight view on the lens of Arsenal and Liverpool as well. And we can throw in other sides in there as well if you think that, you know, the likes of Chelsea are going to be there as well. I'd be very surprised, but you never know. Stranger things have happened. Hello, Razad. Where's the lawyer? I am here. 115, love you too, Elder. Advocate Nobbins, we might get second position after a horrendous season, says Leon. Maybe. I am a lawyer, yes. If you want to like watch my thoughts on the situation, then you can go back and watch those streams / videos. You know, I don't have direct experience in like sports law, etc., but I know the basics. So yeah, apologies, I got the stream wrong. We were live on Twitch for like 30 seconds. My bad. Yeah, indeed, Toby. What's your choice for our fallback options? Is all about cars. Don't fully know yet. I like the idea of Cambiasso as a left back option. If we do that, we'll also need a right back who can be good offensively going forward as well. I don't know exactly who that is yet. I'll maybe explore that in the summer. And also depends who we're linked with as well. Good. Hello, Eden. Good evening. Early prediction: Arsenal second. What, this season or next season is that, Jack? I've also got some baked beans, guys. Because I'm trying to, get back into baked beans because I love baked beans. Also, I did a video yesterday, new series, Ask Nobbins. Hopefully you guys enjoyed that. It seemed to be well received, so that can be a new weekly series on the channel that gets uploaded every single Monday. So if you want of course, I try to answer all questions here, but if you want like a specific topic in a bit more detail, then leave a comment on that video and for the chance to be featured next time. So Jack says here, I was going to say, who should we start with, Arsenal or Liverpool? Jack thinks Arsenal are going to finish second. It'd be interesting to know who thinks going to finish first, Jack. So maybe we should start with Arsenal, shall we? Again, from a rival perspective. What do we make of Arsenal's season this year? What have we made them of the past couple of years? What do we think they're going to do in the summer? What do they need to do in the summer? And is that going to be enough for us to not overtake them? Will we overtake them? Let's have a chat about Arsenal then, shall we? Again, the reason why we're doing this is because if we can assess where we think Arsenal will be next year, then we know exactly what we need to do ourselves in order to overtake them. So there is still a City focus with today's show, as always. Arsenal had a bad transfer window, definitely. I'm going to get the transfers up on Transfermarkt, but I believe that all they did was they brought in Moreno and Calafiori, and they promoted Nwaneri. Sterling on loan. I don't think that they did any other business, did they? Let me just double check. And then we'll also get up Liverpool later. Liverpool are easy. They didn't do anything apart from bringing Chiesa on loan. I swear Liverpool only did that so Balotelli wouldn't have the title of being the only Italian to win the Premier League, which is very upsetting. Right, yes, so Calafiori, 45 million euros, Moreno, 32 million euros, Raya, but they already had him, 32 million euros. And Sterling on loan. Again, they promoted Lewis Skelly as well. Who do they lose? Anyone key? Players who weren't good enough or weren't going to make it? Smith Rowe and Nketiah. Yeah. The Fabio Vieira one is interesting. I don't want to get too into that, but given all the offensive issues that that Arsenal had this year, I would have thought that Vieira may have stayed or would have been recalled. Don't know what the exact situation is there, but there we go. So Arsenal had a stinky transfer window. I don't think any Arsenal fan would disagree with that. We all know what was the problem last year. We all know why they didn't win the title last year. First of all, City were finished ahead of them, fine. But from their perspective, why didn't Arsenal win the title last year? It was because they didn't score enough goals in enough games. And that's the key, because when I said that, in the summer, I said, well, Arsenal didn't score enough goals. And the retort to that was, but we scored lots of goals in the Premier League. And then I was like, okay, I've got to be really specific here. Didn't score enough goals in enough games. I think there were maybe twice as many games where Arsenal weren't able to score a goal in the league compared to City, for example. There weren't that many, but when you want to win the league, in theory, it should be quite high standards. So the problem was, for Arsenal, they needed to bring in some sort of attacking player. Again, this isn't rocket science. We all knew that was the situation. So they opted to bring in a defender and a midfielder. Again, I never really understood that. Fine signings, but if it was a case of one or the other, should have gone for the other rather than the one. In January, they had the opportunity to rectify that. You know, the players were out there. PSG signed a very good wide player. City signed a very good wide/forward player. Arsenal opted to not do anything. And I thought, I don't want to go too far in Arsenal here because I know Toby's in the chat and he is an Arsenal fan. But I do believe that was sort of like a loser mentality from Arsenal as an institution, in that they were still in the title race at that point. You could have easily brought in this player. Would they have been cheap? No. But again, PSG were able to find a player. City were able to find a player. These players did exist and they were out there. They opted to not do that. And yes, then subsequent injuries were bad, obviously. Not trying to take anything away from that, but it didn't really help. They didn't really help their cause. Do you see what I mean? And they could have brought in that player not only for the short term of maybe winning the title, but also from a perspective of like what City are doing and have done. They bring in a Marmoush now, get him acclimatized, to City. So by the start of next season, he's already had basically a full pre-season. He's had half a season there. In addition to an actual pre-season, he can now hit the ground running the start of next season. They opted to not do that. Very confusing in my view. I never really understood that. So what do Arsenal need to do, and what do we think they'll do in the summer? And that's going to be the key from, as I say, from a City perspective. What do we think Arsenal will do? Do we think that they will hit the summer hard? Do we think they are going to have like a massive transfer window where they sign, like 3 starters, as an example? Going through that Arsenal side, I think that, minimum, I think the back four is fine. The back four is absolutely fine. And don't worry, I'll come to your comments in a moment. Don't you worry, guys. The back four is absolutely fine. The emergence of Lewis Skelly, that saved them like 50 million quid probably if he continues to excel at left back. They've also got Calafiori who can play there. Centre back options in respect of the starting positions are fine. Maybe another conversation about depth, but with Galiba, with Gabriel and Saliba and Timber as well, they're fine at the back. And then they're not going to upgrade on their keeper, are they either? Midfield is, I think, the starting point of where they do need to look at an upgrade. In particular, well, especially if Partey's going, you obviously need another player there, but also it basically depends like what direction you want to go with like Rice and Ødegaard as well. I think that they would benefit from getting a more purely offensive midfield player. I think that Ødegaard does provide a lot, certainly off ball as well. But I do think that, and Siman's just said there again, if I don't know how real this Zubimendi deal is, if Zubimendi is coming in, then for me, that I'm not saying sack off Ødegaard, but what I am saying is that it sort of becomes tricky to justify his inclusion a little bit more, because one of Ødegaard's biggest traits was this ability to drop in and help build up play from deep. But if you're bringing in a Zubimendi, so you've got like a Zubimendi-Rice situation going on, all of a sudden that attribute of Ødegaard's isn't needed anymore because Zubimendi's doing that. So now, because that trait's been dealt with by another player, I'm now asking that third midfielder to do a little bit more, to do something else offensively. And there, I think that's where maybe like a pure 10 type of player would be a bit more beneficial for an Arsenal. So for me, they need to sign this more offensive midfielder. Interestingly, I don't think they're going to do that. I think that they will stick with Ødegaard in that position, and as I say, maybe bring in a Zubimendi. If they do that, for me, that's not enough to win the title. I think they need to do more. So that's my prediction. Now let's go to the attacking areas. Right wing, obviously fine. You've got Saka, Nwaneri. I know it's not his position, but he can play there, obviously. That's fine. I don't think Martinelli is a player you win the title with as a starter. I don't think that he, starts 25 games in the league and you win the title with him. That sounds a bit reductive, but hopefully you understand what I mean. I don't think he's the quality of player you would want to be starting in a side going for the title. I personally hold the same view with the current striker options as well in the Arsenal system as things currently stand. So how many players do I think Arsenal need to bring in to like properly win the title? Certainly a midfielder, preferably a more advanced one, but if it's Zubimendi, that also might work. Again, if Partey leaves, Zubimendi comes in, they're sort of like at a neutral there rather than a gain, you might say. But certainly a winger, or at least a versatile forward, and then another forward on top of that. Jesus has never won the Premier League title being a striker. It has never happened in his career, and I don't think that's a coincidence. The one time he was the main striker at City, City did not win the title. I'm not saying that was because of Jesus by any means, but all I am saying is that I don't think that he is a striker that you win the Premier League title with. I also don't think Havertz is that sort of player either. I think he's a good player, but I don't think that if he was in my side, and again, I quite like Havertz as a player, I don't think that he would be enough. So if I was an Arsenal fan, I'm looking at 2 forward players. Again, I'm being non-specific here, just forward players, 2 at least, and then at least 1 midfielder. If Partey's leaving, 2. So I'm looking at Arsenal. I think they need to sign 4 players, I guess is what I've decided. 4 starters, upgrades, whatever you want to say. So for that left wing, for that striker, for that potential creative midfielder, and also, again, if Partey's leaving, then that's going to be a thing. So minimum 3 upgrades / starters, probably more likely 4. What are the chances that's going to happen? I mean, I'll ask Toby. First of all, Toby, because I know you're an Arsenal fan, do you agree with that assessment? And do you think that's likely? And to all the chat as well, as you guys answer that question, I'm just going to come to the comments on this. Dembele is available for Arsenal tomorrow. Yeah, big up Dembele. Razad says Arsenal will bottle the bottle. Amazing. Again, Boyne Autumn's Toby, he's an Arsenal fan. I'm going to be honest, I'm not liking the way Arteta's philosophy is going. Everything's being sacrificed for control, but when in control, making stupid mistakes and losing games. I think that Arteta's been scarred by the 22-23 season. I still genuinely think, I know the points tally won't tell us that, and maybe how deep you went in cup competitions maybe won't tell us that. For me, that is still the best Arsenal side that Arteta's had. It did collapse towards the end of the season, but they still got 50 points over 19 games. And again, I know that it then fell apart after, but I don't know. I think that was more to do with a relative immaturity and newness of the side and inexperience, rather than it being anything to do with like strategy or tactics. Again, I don't know how controversial that is as a statement. And I do agree with you, Toby. I think that he's almost... Well, no, he hasn't almost. He has, I think, been scarred by that season. And he's gone, right, well, that ain't going to happen again. And again, we are going to be more pragmatic and we are going to lean into more this idea of like suffocating the opponent. And it's sort of similar to what Pep did after the 17-18 season, I think, where we got, I mean, there were refereeing situations, but City ultimately did get battered by Liverpool, even in just that one game in an isolation. When City went to Anfield the year after, they were incredibly pragmatic and defensive. And I think we've maybe seen over the past 4 years that City have been a bit more pragmatic than Pep's first Premier League winning sides. Whereas for Pep, it sort of worked, and I think in his best years he has found the balance. This year, obviously not. Arteta, I don't think, has found that balance yet. I don't know the numbers on how many goals Arsenal failed to score this year, but I do know that they are the second highest for the number of draws in the league this season. So again, that tells us that that balance between attack and defence and control, as you say, isn't really there yet. Maybe it will be there. Pepe, yeah, brilliant. Arteta's problem is pragmatism. Oh, there we go. Yes, traumatised. I promise I didn't just nick that. His record against the Big Six is the best of any manager in the last 2 years, but he can't break down an average Brentford mid-block. Yeah, I don't know the numbers. That's really interesting to hear this, man, if that's true. Arsenal with the Isak, says Razad. If they don't prioritise a striker or a goal scorer, then they're doing something wrong. Yeah, totally agree. Totally agree. Smian says they need a world-class left wing. Yeah, Martinelli upgrades. A low block breaking X factor. Yes, so maybe that 10. A proper backup left back. I didn't really think of that. I guess depends what's the I guess it depends, like, how quickly do you want to move Lewis Skelly into the midfield? If the thought process is, actually, we could have a midfield of Rice and Lewis Skelly and then a more attacking midfielder ahead of them, then maybe that's the play, and then you absolutely maybe go out and get a first choice left back, perhaps. I guess it depends. Yeah, we discussed it with Mendy. Big up to you, Andrew. Hope you're doing well, matey. Always love to see you in the chat. Big up to you, Mitchell. We will be doing a watch along tonight, Zach. The Mendy deal's done but not done. That's one of those, yeah. Rodrigo says, Pep, well, he is allegedly leaving. This is what I think about Havertz. Again, I really like him, but I would be disappointed if he was my starting option up top. I'd be very disappointed. I'm eating baked beans, guys. Don't you worry. I need the fiber, yeah? Love you too, Musty. Well, I think he's good, yeah. I don't think he's, like, world class, but I think he's a good player, yeah, and he is a good player, clearly. He serves a useful function, but I don't know if that function's useful enough to win the title. That's all I'm saying. Again, doesn't mean I think he's a bad player at all. Toby's dubious whether to say it's likely, but there's been indications that we will spend big. Well, so just looking at gross spend. So yeah, and I don't know the financials. It'd be interesting to know like how much Arsenal can spend for PSR. I know they can spend, and they could have spent quite a lot in January. There was a big, again, just looking at gross here, there was obviously a really big summer when Rice came in because it was obviously a big fee. Yeah, so that was 230 million euros, which is around 200 million quid, isn't it? Yeah, Rice, Havertz, Timber, Raya, technically on loan, but ultimately that would be a thing. And that was a really good summer. You know, there's three, well, at the time, 4 upgrades there, you know, with Raya, Timber, Havertz, Rice. I would say that, in my view, Rice and Timber and probably Raya as well have established themselves as players who I would say that they are starters in a title-winning side. Again, for me, the jury's still out on Havertz. Still a useful tool. Don't think he should be the starter, though. So they really need another window like that, because the window after, Calafiori, I know he's an option there, but is he better than Gabriel? Probably, well, very different player in fairness. Moreno, is he a huge upgrade? Again, I know he's been a functional player, not necessarily. So they sort of went backwards from a transfer perspective. So it would have to be a repeat of 23-24 where they bring in, 3-4 of these upgrades / starters. Hello, Bailey. I think it's more about whether Arsenal lean back into playing centrally or not. And maybe, that's what we were saying in fairness, maybe that's to do with bringing in this more offensive-minded player who can be that. Again, it's not really a quantifiable thing. That sort of De Bruyne-type player, like a block, a game breaker, a block breaker, like a sort of De Bruyne-type-ish player. Or again, I know it's not centrally, but a Salah type or a Doku type where they can just, in an instance, just do something insane out of nowhere. Hello, Fire. So well done for finishing your first year of uni. Love that from you. So today we're just discussing the City rivals and what we think they need to do, and therefore what do City need to do to match that. Big up to you, Blue Lock. Big up to you, Thunder Road. I know you're an Arsenal fan as well. I'm sorry for needing calories to exist. God. Do you think Wood gets Arsenal goals because they cross the ball a lot? He probably wouldn't be a bad plan B. I like Wood, but if we're talking about upgrades, then Wood's not going to be that, is he? Again, I'm not going to sit here and give you names for that. There are obvious strikers out there who are very high quality, like an Isak, but it's more just as long as you get a player who can score goals consistently and can take shots consistently, that's an upgrade. So in sum on Arsenal, I guess I've come to the conclusion that I don't think they're going to do enough in the summer. If they go hard, then that's absolutely fine. But precedent tells us that they don't have a habit of going hard in the summer window. The best example is 23-24, when they spent 200 million quid gross. And I think they need to spend more than that. Because one of them was a forward, but the rest were defenders or midfielders, or defensive midfielders or goalkeepers. And forward players tend to be a lot more expensive, of course. How much is this striker going to cost that we're talking about? For the player that we think Arsenal might need, we might be looking at 100 million quid for this left winger that we're talking about as well. Just going to throw the name out there, Rodrigo. Don't think that will happen, but just as an example, if we think he's that sort of player, how much is he going to cost? Maybe around 100 million pounds or 100 million euros, whatever. And that's just two players. So, and I think they might need 3 or 4. So a lot of money needs to be invested. I just don't know whether that will happen in one window. If it does, that's absolutely the correct thing to do, in my view, and they need to go for it. They sort of need to, as an institution, come to this realization that in order to win Premier Leagues, etc., on a consistent basis, you're going to have to spend big, or you're going to have to inherit a team where lots of money was spent on it. Lots of people like to bring up, speaking of Arsenal, Arsene Wenger as an example. In the first instance, he did spend quite a lot in those years where Arsenal won the titles, but he also inherited quite an expensive side. He literally had Dennis Bergkamp in the side, who was a British record fee. Arteta and Arsenal are going to have to do the same. I don't think it's Arteta's issue. Again, based on the conversations I had with Arsenal fans in Jan, I think Arteta was basically putting out feelers saying, we need to spend big, we need to spend money in Jan, we need to spend money going forward. So I don't think this is like an Arteta stubbornness problem where he thinks his squad's good enough. I think he knows that his squad needs improvement. It's just whether the owners, board, whoever's in charge will do that. They clearly do need to do that. And again, there's been lots of, just taking it back to City for a moment, I touched on this on LNobbins yesterday. There's been a lot of, I don't know what the right term is here, I'm going to say ignorance, let's say, on City's transfer window in Jan, saying, oh, well, of course, City are only a few points behind us. They spent £200 million. I've seen someone say £300 million. Well, that's just wrong. In the first instance, it's actually more like £150 million, considering that 30 or 40 million of that was on Vitor Hayes, who's hardly played, and then 10 to 20 was on Bar, who is currently in France. There's also the fact that our recent run hasn't even really involved a Kusanov, for example, so that takes it down to more like 100 million. And even so, City needed to spend money, and they saw the problem and they addressed it. It was the correct thing to do. Arsenal didn't do that. That's not City's fault. That's Arsenal's fault. So instead of having a go at City, these people should probably be having a go at Arsenal. Surely, that would be the way I would look at it. If I was an Arsenal fan, I'd be annoyed, not at the fact that another club has spent money. I'd be annoyed that my club could have spent money and should have spent money. It was borderline negligent to not spend money, and yet they didn't do anything. And now we will never know what could have been of this season. Who knows? If they brought in Omar Marmoush type player, could he have helped Arsenal get closer to Liverpool, even beat Liverpool to the title? Who knows? Maybe they will beat PSG tomorrow, but could that also be a difference maker in the Champions League if they don't end up winning it? We never will know, will we? We never will know. So yeah, that was just like an aside and a little bit of a rant there. So again, in sum, on Arsenal, I don't think they're going to do enough. If City spend how I want them to spend in the summer and get the type of players I want them to spend, I do think we will improve the goalkeeper area if Ederson leaves. We will improve both fullbacks area. We will improve the midfield. And I'm not going to name names, but if we do that in those key areas, that certainly takes City above what Arsenal are now. Definitely, surely. Again, bar any mental injuries. So if I'm saying that, Arsenal are now here and City are now here-ish, because again, they are quite similar, the league table tells us that. I still think Arsenal are obviously the better side right now. If City spend the money, then they'll go up to there. If Arsenal spend a little bit, they'll go up to there. The question is, will they spend the money to get 3 or 4 starters and then to get like here level or even higher? That's the question. We obviously don't know that. So that's Arsenal. That's what they probably need to do. Well, that's what they certainly need to do to win the title. And again, by consequence, that's what we need to do to eclipse them, because they're going to get better. Surely they're going to get better. So we need to get better and then some. And again, I'm very confident we will do that. We spent a lot of money in Jan on the future of this side, so I think we can do it. Liverpool now, shall we? Unless there's any final thoughts on Arsenal, please let me know, guys. If not, I'm going to move on to Liverpool and what we think they might need to do as I eat some more baked beans. And make sure to leave a like on the video. Leave a like on the video. Listen to the Nobbot. It is free and it helps out your boy. More likes equals more viewers. More viewers equals more baked beans for me to eat. And the more baked beans I can eat means that Heinz get more money. And then we can get a Heinz sponsorship. Yeah? Likes equal Heinz sponsorships in a nutshell. Indirectly. Must have say move on to League 2 sides. Yeah, now obviously if City get fucked in court, then this is a moot conversation and it's irrelevant, obviously. But so let's operate under the assumption that that doesn't happen, yeah? Let's do that. I've now eaten all my beans. What's the biggest sponsorship I've got? That fucking sick cinema chair. That's what. Big up to the boy. Oh, yeah. I discussed this on Twitch, but there's not as many people who watch the Twitch. Keep an eye out on Sport Bible's social media, because I'm in a video. We recorded a video for the FA Cup final. They invited me along. It was very nice. And it's a very fun video, I think. So keep an eye out, because your boy has made it to Lads Bible. We love to see that. I travelled to London last week. It was very fun. And as I say, it's me and another content creator having a chat about the FA Cup final. And I think it's going to get released a couple of days before the FA Cup final. So keep an eye out for that one. Hello, Clutch Clip. City made a lot of sales. Haven't spent the way we should have. Now it's caught up. Yeah, we know that... We know and have known for a while that we did need a big window. I really thought that the summer just gone was going to be the big window. I did really think that. That's why I recommended a midfielder and a forward player and a defender. I thought it was going to be like a 17-18 style of summer. That didn't happen. That was sad. That was upsetting. This one needs to be the one. And again, the City higher-ups have said as much. That they made a mistake. They're now going to rectify it. So on Newcastle, I still think Newcastle are a couple years away. I still think that they're not yet at the process of they're going to definitely challenge for league titles. I think that I think they will, by the way, within like the next 5 years. I think next season, even the season after, it's still going to be a little bit too early for them. There's still some conversations about PSR as well. I don't know the full ins and outs again, but they're not as established, therefore it's harder for them to get over that particular financial hurdle. So watch this space on Newcastle, but I don't think next year they're going to be a serious contender. I think they'll still be in like a Champions League football fight and that sort of thing. In the treble season, City sold more than they spent, yeah. And again, at the time, I didn't even mind that much. We did need to sign a proper Gundogan replacement, and that didn't happen, of course, so that was a big error. But I liked, Doku coming in. I loved Gvardiol coming in. I can't Thunder Road. It's not, but it isn't a Palace fan. It isn't a Palace fan. It's someone who's more known than me. It's someone who is more known than me. Yeah, exactly. You'd have known that, lads. Bible info if you watch the Twitch. If you tuned into the Twitch last Thursday. Yeah, if you want even more Nobbins in your life, Twitch is just LNobbins on Twitch. Link in every video description. Yeah, thank you guys very much. It was very fun to do. Can aim to win the league by 2030. Yeah, I think that's about right. I think that's about right. Verts Bomber says Tadiwa. Okay. Let's tell me what's going on. Right, Liverpool now. Liverpool. Liverpool is such a weird one because I seriously did not think they were going to win the league this season. I thought they were going to finish third. So they deserve massive plaudits, obviously. I don't think hardly anyone would have predicted them to finish first for a number of reasons. Partly because no one could have foreseen, what happened to City with like the Rodri situation and then the collapse therein. I don't think anyone would have foreseen like Arsenal being this not as good as well. And also, in fairness, I don't think anyone would have foreseen Salah having this insane season where has he broken the record for goals and assists in a Premier League season, something like that. A potential Ballon d'Or worthy season. I don't think anyone would have predicted that either. And also Slot being a far better manager than many gave him credit for. I was reserving judgment because I didn't watch Feyenoord, on like a consistent basis. I didn't really know that much about Slot and his style of football and his tactics. So, again, bit of an outlier maybe. Now, I'm not trying to say that means this season is a fluke by any means, because that would be unfair and wrong as well. What I would say is I don't think that it's something that can be replicated next year unless serious money is spent. It's a similar thing with Arsenal, I think. Once again, I might be wrong, but a lot of that squad, if you think of their star players, again, they've extended Salah, they've extended Van Dijk, they are towards the tail end of their career. Again, that doesn't mean they're washed or finished or anything, but it's unlikely that they are going to perform to the same levels, like Salah in particular. That would be very, very surprising if that were to happen. Trent's also gone. That's now confirmed, like officially. And whatever we may say about Trent, and I still do maintain that he is and was a defensive liability. Wait, what's the Verts news? Just saw the news. This is grim, says Faisal. What's happening? Guys, let me know what's going on. Do I need to go onto Twitter? Is there a development? Have I missed something? Have I missed something, guys? What's going on? I can't find anything. What should I be looking at? If Verts doesn't come here, I'll be chill because jury's still out for me on the mechanics of that signing. Where am I looking, guys? Is it Sport Build? Can't see anything. Have I been baited? Do I need to search for Verts? Oh, Bailey win. Big up to Bailey. Oh, Florian Wirtz has informed Xabi Alonso he doesn't want to move to either Madrid or City. He only wants to join Bayern. And Bailey has quoted it going, "This is the actual report, which is light and speculative. Not sure it's worth driving your sanity off a cliff." It also has the line in it, which is just not the case. Real Madrid and Pep Guardiola's City, which has shown great interest in the midfield strategist, have reportedly not been a serious option for the Wirtz family. Yeah, so that's not true, Bailey's saying. Okay, so this seems to be a non-story that everyone's getting worked up about. And that's in German. Wie geht's? I don't speak German. Right, yeah, so that seems to be a non-story, to be honest, guys. That's not interesting at all. I won't lie. Anyway, back to Liverpool. As I said, it's a bit of a non-story, not very interesting. Yeah, Liverpool. So I don't think that we were talking about Trent, weren't we? Again, Trent for me is a defensive liability, but um, there is no doubt that he's still a fantastic player, offensively certainly, and there is no doubt that Liverpool have lost a massive weapon there. This hasn't been his best season by any means, but he's not been bad this year at all, again, by any means. He's still a very valuable offensive tool, and there's no real replacing that. I know Bradley's coming through the academy, and he is very good. They will obviously need to sign another right back there, I would think. They obviously need to sign another left back as well. I think the Kirkes is being linked. So they're in a similar situation to City, where they also need to do quite a bit of squad building. We're looking at the two fullbacks. They've got their goalkeeper for the future sorted. I think, does Alisson have one more year? And then that chap whose name, the Georgian chap whose name I can't begin to pronounce, he's coming in, I believe. So they're fine in the goalkeeper area. Centre backs, who do they have? So obviously Van Dijk, that's fine. But I don't know how true this is, but Liam Byrne, who's a Liverpool fan, he said they were getting rid of Konate. I don't know how true that is. Do they need to bring in another centre back? Perhaps, or certainly if that's happening. The midfield looks good though. Like that rebuild that Klopp did before he left, he's done a very good job there. In fairness, I think they will need to bring in at least one forward player though. Darwin Núñez is clearly not it. Can they go another year with not having a true striker option? I know Jota has done a great job there, for example. Is that really what you want in back-to-back seasons? Perhaps not. So I think Liverpool probably need to spend quite big as well, in all honesty. Again, a right back, well, you're not even going to sign a right back of that quality. You can't get a right back that's going to offer as much value as Trent right now. Really. I'd even though I think his defensive liability, Trent would probably be perfect for how City have been setting up the past few weeks with the right back basically being a right winger. You could have 2020 Trent in that side. Will they do it again? Will their players be as good next year? Will they bring in the correct players? Again, it's at least 3 upgrades that they need to bring in. At least 3 upgrades. Right back, left back, striker. I don't know the injury situation, but based on what people are saying online, they also got relatively fortunate with injuries this year, so do they also need to improve the squad as well? Are they going to do all that in the summer? Is Slot also going to have an equally as impressive season next year? But both things could definitely happen. I actually think... This isn't me trying to have a go at Arsenal at all. I actually think that circumstance is more likely to happen than Arsenal's. I think that Liverpool need to do less work in the short term because they still have, again, I know that Salah and Van Dijk only a couple of years left, but we're talking about just next year. I think they probably have less work to do. They already have those X-Factor players in a Mo Salah. The midfield is already looking good. Now, maybe they do need to improve on that defensive midfield area. Once again, Gravenberch has been brilliant this year. Is he going to be able to replicate that next year? That's another question to be had. They still don't have this pure defensive midfield option there. Is that another area that they need to go to? Perhaps. And there is also the lack of novelty as well. I know that, Liverpool weren't an unknown quantity this year, but there is no way that the rest of the Premier League thought that they were going to be as good as they were this year. And I do think that novelty is gone. That surprise factor, whatever you want to say, that's gone now. They're obviously league champions. That will also be a little bit of a factor for teams coming up against them, knowing in advance, okay, so again, there is no surprise here. We know how they're probably going to play, and we also know how good they are. They are the champions after all, so we need to up our game here. They'll also need to deal with that, and that will be interesting to see how will they deal with that. Again, they'll have to set up very differently without Trent in the side for a whole season. No defender offers that offensive value. I wonder. I wonder, will they be able to do it? Again, I think it's probably more likely they do that than Arsenal do what I think they want to do. What I think they need to do, sorry. So I guess I've concluded that City are winning the title next season, boys. Oh, yeah. I don't know. I don't know if I actually... No, I do think that. I feel like I'm underestimating them somehow. It can't be that simple. I'm definitely underestimating them. Or maybe I'm overestimating City. Because there's no way... Because the way I've outlined it there is I think it's going to be quite simple for City to win the title this season. But I don't think that's the case. What do you guys think? Have I heavily underestimated Liverpool there? Do they actually only need, like, 1 or 2 players to come in? Is it, something that can be easily replicated? Like Salah's form, a Van Dijk's form, etc., etc. Slots tactics. What do you guys think? Let me know. Because, again, they've been very impressive this year. Only lost 3 league games, and one of those was in like a dead rubber for them against Chelsea. They didn't care about that game. Chelsea desperately had to win that game. Chelsea are annoying me, by the way. Can you stop winning games? Because we predicted you to not win that game. And it's been pissing me off. Yeah, in our predictions. Although, in fairness, the other predictions have been going very well for us. Like, Newcastle dropping points, Forest as well. So, okay, we take those. You can't have everything, I guess. But, if Liverpool lose at home to Arsenal, I'm convinced they won't win the title next season, says Naveem. I guess it just depends on... They've already won the title, haven't they? So do they even care? Do they even care? Oh my god, yeah. I don't really get... Again, Frimpong is a winger. When people say, what do you think about Frimpong as a right back? My retort is always, Frimpong's a winger. And then that will hopefully tell them my thoughts on it. He's a winger, he's not a right back. At most, he's a wing back. At the most. And even then, there's still question marks. He's a winger. And it's not about him not being able to track back. That's not relevant. It is... He's a winger. It's like, you might as well say, what are your thoughts on Savio at right back? Or Leroy Sane is like a left winger. It's like, you know. City walking the league, yes, big up. Leverkusen still second. Let's not act like he's a bad player. Wait, who's that? I mean, what are your thoughts on Hugo Larsson for the 8 at City instead of Gibbs White? I might do like a video on the 8 options. I guess it depends how quickly the Gibbs White situation escalates. Liverpool second half of the season's awful, says Razad. I'm underestimating them, says Kenboy. That's fairs. Maybe I am. Although, to be fair, I don't think I'm underestimating them. I may be underestimating the likelihood of what I think they need to do in the window. Perhaps. Yeah, we talked about this. It's a non-story. Don't worry about it. Don't worry about it, guys. Frimpong's more touches inside the box than Foden this season. That's hilarious. Ballon d'Or back will be huge, says Andrew. Some of our fans have an affinity to him because Frimpong was in the academy. That's true. What happens if Rodrigo goes to Arsenal or Liverpool? It'll be a good signing for them, I guess. It's not... wouldn't particularly concern me. We will be there. Yeah, don't worry, guys, that the report is meaningless. Who do you want at left and right back since you prefer Gvardiol at centre back? See, here's the thing. I actually don't prefer Gvardiol at centre back. If I had my way, I still think that Gvardiol provides far too much on-ball value to have him at centre back. So in an ideal world, I would actually have him, or I would maybe have him at centre back, but no, reset, start again, reset button, F5, F5, F5. The ideal off-ball position for Gvardiol is and always will be left-sided centre-back. There's no disputing that. When we signed him, I knew he was going to play off-ball left-back. And that's not a flex, but that's just a fact. Like, go watch my analysis video. I knew he was going to play off-ball left-back because that's how we were setting up. And Gvardiol has played at left-back in the past. But I also touched on how in that video, his best long-term situation would be doing a John Stones, i.e., starting off-ball centre-back, because again, he's going to be better off-ball centre-back moving into the midfield. The reason why I wanted him to play at left-back is, and still do if the Stones thing can't happen, is because he's so good on the ball that I want him higher up the pitch. That's how highly I rate him. So in an ideal world, I want Gvardiol off-ball to be a centre-back, but on-ball to be someone who can push into midfield. Now, that doesn't mean he has to go to like the number 10 position, but it would be nice if an option could be he pushes up and plays alongside Rodri. That's what I mean by that. So he's still technically in like a defensive midfield area, so he's not too far away from centre-back, but it means that we are getting the most out of him. You know, off-ball, defensively solid. On ball, we're still getting something from him. Because again, if he's at centre-back, he can obviously play there brilliantly well on ball, and he helps us with build-up. But again, he's so good. He's so good going forwards. I just don't want to lose that. So, ideal world, he starts at centre-back, but has the licence to push into midfield. Again, like John Stones. I don't see why he wouldn't be able to do that. I really don't see why he wouldn't be able to do that. For me, that's probably the best utilisation of him. But certainly off-ball, defensively, he's best as a centre-back, yeah. This man says City's going to be title challenges. We're not going to walk the league, but we'll challenge for it. If the window for City goes as well as I hope it will, and as well as I think it will, we should, we definitely should at least be challenging for the league. If we don't challenge for the league next season, then that is a massive L, and that's a massive failure. I want us to win the title next season. I don't see why we can't win the title next season. We know the positions we need to prioritise. We know the signings we need to make. If we make them, why can't we win the title? Especially given the context of the rivals that we have discussed in this show. We all don't necessarily think Arsenal are going to do enough in the window. There might be a world where Liverpool do enough in the window, but are they going to be able to replicate that form? And therefore, how big is the gap? Maybe not as big as we initially contemplated and thought. And then City can take advantage. So that's how I see it, and that's how I interpreted it. Can we get a comparison for Real Madrid, says Razad? We can talk about Real Madrid as well, yeah, absolutely fine. F5, yeah. And again, yeah, that's why I'm saying off-ball, he can go to centre-back, but on-ball, we need him there. You get me. The reason why he's currently being playing at left-back and pushing it up to like left wing sometimes in the midfield. I don't see why he can't just do the Stones. Centre-back into midfield. I'd love that. I would love it if that happened. I love it. And then you can like build up in like a fucking, I don't know. Although to do that you would need probably a left back. Well, that's, to be fair, that would be an Ake situation, because you need a left back who's comfortable at centre back. That would be great for Ake. That's how you could get Ake and Gvardiol into the same side quite nicely. You can have Ake left back, Gvardiol left centre back, right-footed right centre back, right-footed right back who's pushing up. Your back two becomes on ball, Ake and this right centre back. Your midfield ahead is Rodri, Gvardiol, and let's say like a Gibbs White sort of thing. So that's a nice 2-3 build. That is really nice. Then you'd have your right back pushing up to right wing. That could happen and be very lovely. Whoever was starting at right midfield pushes into the centre. And then you got a nice front five going on there. That would be lovely. And that way, you aren't moving a midfielder backwards, bad. You're moving a defender into midfield, better. So yeah. There we go. And that'd be good, wouldn't it? Then you can have a proper left winger at left wing, if you wanted. Obviously a striker. Whoever was on the right goes into the centre. And then you got like 2 8-10s there as well. That'd be nice. That'd be lovely. He needs to know how to do it, though. And again, it relies on Ake being fit or signing another left-footed centre-back. That's the only way it would work. But there we go. Set-piece threat is big enough. Yeah, he's a behemoth, isn't he? Young defenders crying on the bench as a mean. Ake's getting sold. I think if one of him or Stones are going to go, it probably will be Stones. Been out of the loop a couple of days. What's with this Gibbs White meltdown? I think people just decided that he's shit, and I don't agree with that at all. I think that's a bit silly. I have my own issues with the signing. I don't. It's not the signing I would make personally, but I get it. I understand the logic behind it. I don't think that he is. I think he's good enough for City. So I'll disagree with Sman there. I do think he's good enough for City. I don't think he's good enough to start 25 games in the Premier League and win the title with City. But those are two very different things. I think he's definitely good enough to come in, be a squad option, be a rotational option, and get a good amount of minutes. But he's not good enough to start it consistently and be like, one of the first names on the team sheet in a side going for the Premier League title, in my view. That remains to be seen. Obviously, I would, to be fair, I also would have said that about Fabian Delph. That happened now, very different circumstance because we had like 10 world-class players and plus Delph didn't really matter at that point, but you see what I mean. Acumen says, how do we improve? Simply concede less and score more, and we are capable of both. Yeah, in a nutshell, yeah. How does one do that? How does one do that? We just need to get the right profiles in. First of all, you need to also have your star players not injured for a whole season as well. We do need to address a lot of those issues in the summer. I'm confident we will. And Gibbs White does help address some of those issues, in fairness. He's not, again, apparently, according to, this is on, LB told me this yesterday, apparently the fee isn't going to be more than £80 million. If it's 75, that's still too much for me. For me, I think that, I don't know, given his form, given the current market, given the fact we spent 50 million on Nunes, I think he should be around that much. I think he should be around 50 million. That's obviously not going to happen, though. Forest probably don't need to sell, especially if they get Champions League football. But we will see. We will see. If anyone's joining in late and is concerned about the Vert situation, again, don't worry. It is a non-story and nothing to be concerned about. I'll repeat. Again, Bailey on Twitter's done a good summation of it. He says the report is light and speculative. It's not worth driving your sanity off a cliff. It also has a line in it which is just not true. He said something else may come out later on, but if you're just going off only this article, it's not remotely near being confirmed. So it's just not confirmed at all. So it's, in my view, it's not even worth worrying about or discussing. So don't worry about it, guys. It's all good. Again, Again, I think 50 million would be a good amount. Not going to happen. It's not going to happen. And again, if we're spending that much, I'd rather we just spend a little bit more, and go for someone like Baleba. I know they don't provide the exact same qualities. No, you can't play Baleba in the 10, for example. But Baleba is 5 years younger than him. And I just think his ceiling is a lot higher than Gibbs White. And I think that actually, in respect of the key attributes Gibbs White is going to give us, i.e. physicality, athleticism, pace, off-ball work, pressing, versatility, being able to play in double pivot with Roger, but also as an 8. I Baleba can do all that. The only thing that Gibbs White really has, in my view, on him, experience, fine, in respect to the positions, is he can also play at the 10. That's not really what I'm interested in, though. We've got loads of players who can play as a 10. That doesn't move me. It doesn't move me. And that's why it's upsetting. If we pay 80 million for Gibbs White, you can't convince me we couldn't have spent 120 million on Baleba. That would have been a better use of resources, in my view. That's why I'm not excited by the signing. I'm not looking at it as bringing in a Gibbs White. I'm looking at it as not bringing in Baleba. I don't think Baleba nulls and voids it. No, because we needed 2 options anyway. We need to rebuild this midfield. Just having one was never going to be enough. We need another one. It doesn't have to be the case that they both start all the time, but they could start in fairness for trickier games. But no, I don't agree at all that it nulls and voids. No, definitely not, because we still need another complete midfielder, because Kovacic ain't good enough long term, Gundogan ain't good enough long term, Bernardo Silva ain't gonna be here long term either. we're losing lots of players. We need bodies. It's not like we've brought in Nico, now we can't have any other player who can play as a 6'8". That would be a mistake. We need more of these players. We need at least one more complete midfielder to rebuild the midfield. Otherwise, we are shafted. We're shafted. And yeah, and if you wanted to, you can have a really, for let's say like a really tricky Champions League away night, whatever. You could have a really lovely midfield like Rodri, Nico, Baleba for sure. But I mean, we're going to hopefully. Well, first of all, why do we need to clear the squad? Let's say that the likes of Grealish and even beyond Kova, Gundo, Bernardo, whatever. Let's say they don't leave. Who cares if we bring in players to replace them and then they don't get minutes? I'm not being funny, but who cares? Because we want to move them on anyway. Why do we need to wait for the contract to expire? If we can buy the player, bring in the player. It's not a financial issue. So if the concern is, but what's Kovacic and Gundogan and Bernardo and Grealish going to do? Who cares? They're not going to be here long term anyway. Like, a lot of those players should hopefully be moving on this summer anyway. If not this summer, the next one. I don't agree at all they need to wait for them to leave. If they don't want to go, or they can't find a home, and we bring in a replacement, and now they're not playing football, who cares? Now, PSR is not a problem for City. We can spend a load of money. It's not a problem. The wages as well, they're going to go down drastically since Kevin is leaving as well, who's our highest earner, like 400k. It's not a problem as I understand it. So it's all good. Who do I want to keep from the Unks? Well, De Bruyne is gone, so there's no point talking about him. I would keep Kovacic for one more year, just because there is some value there. I would get rid of Bernardo Silva. It's time for him to go, definitely. He has been impressive in the past few weeks, but he needs to go for me. I also I do think there is a bit of an obsession with Pep and Bernardo, and this is at the detriment of other players who need to play more football. So just for his own sake, I think Bernardo needs to go. And Gundogan is staying, so there's no point really discussing that. Again, I can understand why he's staying for just one more year. It has to just be one more year. Within 2 years, all of Kevin, Bernardo, Gundo, Kova, Grealish, Stones, they have to go. They absolutely have to be gone. I don't know exactly what the contract situation is, but they definitely have to be gone. If not this summer, then the next one, minimum. Again, hopefully we can definitely move on Bernardo, definitely move on Grealish. We're definitely moving on Kevin. I'd keep Kova and Gundo then based on that. I don't want to lose too much experience all at once in an ideal world. But as long as they are just being used to as long as they're just being used as this option, I don't want Kova starting ahead of Nico G next season if Nico G's available. If we bring in whoever this other midfielder is, let's say it's Gibbs White, I don't want Kova starting over Gibbs White on a consistent basis. I don't want Kova and Gundo getting minutes at the expense of younger players where it'll be more beneficial. So I don't want Gundo playing instead of Foden. I don't want Gundo playing instead of Bob. I don't want Gundo playing instead of Doku. Depending on shape. I don't want Gundo playing instead of even like if he stayed a McAtee, even like an Echeverry. I know very different players, but hopefully you understand what I mean. They're fine for them to stay, but it can't be at the cost or expense of others. You get me? How many years do you reckon Ruben has in him? What do you mean, like? Do you mean like at the highest level, or do you mean at City? Because I do think long term Kusanov will be replacing him. They're sort of similar in how they approach defending, but Kusanov has got the physical edge on Diaz. And it's a testament to Ruben Diaz's defensive work, but Diaz has never been good pace-wise. That's a massive weakness, to be honest with you, to not just like be quick. Kusanov has that in abundance. Hello, Palo Geek. Hi from Zimbabwe. How do you rate Bar? Not seen enough of him, to be honest, Palo Geek. We're probably looking at another loan, though, just based on numbers. just based on how many centre-backs we have Gavardio. Right now, we have Ake. Right now, we have Stones. We have Akanji. We have Diaz. We have Vitor Hayes. That's 6 already, and I think I've missed someone there as well. I don't know if I said Kusanov. We're looking at like 6, 7 already, even before Bar comes in. So it would probably make sense for Bar to have another year on loan somewhere, and then 2 years, both Stones and Ake will have gone. We'll hopefully by then assess, whether Vitor Hayes is going to make that step up as well, and then Bar can probably come in just based on numbers as well. But ideally, one of them would be left-footed. Sadly, we've brought in 3 different right-footed centre-backs, which is a shame. Bar and Hayes and Kusanov, it's a shame they're all right-footed. Because it means that we will need to bring in another left-footed option when Ake leaves. So that's another body there, in fairness. Just being a top defender for us. I think like another 5 years, he could easily do it. Easily. He's what, 26, 27, is he? So 31, 32, definitely. Hello, Discovery. I think we go invincible. Brilliant. I love that from you, IFL. Doyle on loan. I don't think Doyle's going to make it here. I'll be honest. I think if he was going to make it, he would have had like a top flight season by now. The fact he's still getting loans in the championship. And again, that sounds harsh because he's what, 21? Kusanov's 20. These are the levels that we're talking about, Even Vitor Hayes can't get in the side and he's 19. It's a tricky one. Yeah, it's too small. Again, he's a physical monster. We know that. That's never going to change. Bar injuries. The problem will just be, the issue will just be, how can he develop on ball, I guess. I agree with that, Jack, as well. Diaz has been getting a lot of hate. I'm still a Diaz believer. Yeah, I'm still a Diaz believer. We're going to wrap up the stream imminently, by the way, chaps. So feel free to get your final questions or thoughts in. We will be live later tonight, watch along of Barca Inter. Very excited to do that. And of course, tomorrow we'll be live for, Arsenal PSG as well. So make sure to join me for that. If you haven't already done so, go watch my Ask Nobbins video from yesterday as well. Big up. Oh, we did this on a squad rebuilds episode. It's not a problem because a lot of the players are young and don't even count, so that's not a problem. There might be like one player who misses out for the Champions League, but you just don't play Vitor Hayes in the squad and it's fine. Oh yeah, sorry, I didn't do Real Madrid. Don't worry about Real Madrid because they stink and I don't even think they're going to win. They've not been the best team in Spain this year. I don't think they're going to be the best team in Spain next year either. I don't see how Trent comes in and immediately just like solves all the problems at Real Madrid, to be honest with you. They'll be better going forwards, but nah. Barcelona will be a bigger threat than Madrid. That's my prediction there. He is a beast, exactly. That's the thing, is they need at least another loan. Yeah, I mean, it was a very impressive debut, but yeah, he was also wonderful in the treble-winning year when he was like man of the match. I think he technically, I think Rodri won it, but let's be honest, like Ruben Diaz or Stones were like man of the match that year at that game for me. They were insane. Hello, Rashik. If we end up signing Gisant Wirtz, what will happen to Echeverry? This is again, if you really want Wirtz to come, and that's absolutely fine. I hope you're not a fan of Echeverry. Let's just put it that way. I don't see where Echeverry plays if Wirtz is playing. Again, might be totally wrong. I don't think that Wirtz and Echeverry can coexist, personally. Maybe that's incredibly foolish of me to say. I just think that they want to occupy the exact same areas far too often. I think that Foden and Echeverry can work together. I think Foden and Wirtz can coexist together. Marmouche and Wirtz, Marmouche and Foden. I'd be very surprised if Echeverry and Wirtz could. I think that he basically takes up all the minutes that an Echeverry might get. And if you do sign Wirtz for over 100 million quid, you're not paying him peanuts. You're not paying him to not play 30 games in the Premier League. So it's not even a case of, oh, just like rotate. Wirtz would be starting 30 games in the Premier League if he signs for us quite easily. He'd be an elite player that you build the side around if you're spending that much money on him. In which case, again, I know he's young, but so is Wirtz, in fairness. So I would fear for Echeverry and his long-term future at City if Wirtz was signed. So again, if you want Wirtz to come in, I hope you ain't an Echeverry fan, because I really don't think that that's going to happen. When you also consider the fact that Haaland's obviously going to play, and Marmoush is probably going to play. I would conclude and suggest it's not looking good for Echeverry. Whether that's relevant is another matter, but that's my take on it. That's my take on it. So again, if you want Wirtz, that's fine, but I really hope you don't want Echeverry to play for City on a consistent basis. Here's the thing: we'll win La Liga. Barcelona, obviously. Big up to you from Mozambique. Love that from you, mate. Yeah, big up Mozambique. Absolutely. When I'm seeing you on the overlap, hey, if I get invited, Naveen, I'd love to go on, but I don't even know if they know I exist. So maybe never. If I get invited, I'd love to go on, though. I'd love to go on. Guys, thank you so much for watching. I'm going to shoot off now. I was ill over the weekend, by the way. That's why there was no content on the Wolves game. Apologies for that. Feeling a lot better now. Again, watch along tonight. Watch along tomorrow night. New weekly series coming out on Mondays. Analysis videos when City play a match. And if Pep does not have Echeverry on the bloody bench this weekend, speaking of Echeverry, then I would just drop the video because it's well, I'll have to go back and edit it, won't I? But it's just annoying me at this point. So expect that either this week or early next week, depending on how cheeky I'm feeling. Probably want to wait for the Southampton game, but we shall see. Can you imagine? I'd love to go on, as I say. We'll find out if I'm relevant enough at some point. Guys, thank you so much for watching. In fact, is anyone else streaming? Is LB live, for example? Yes, he is. Wirtz only wants buying. Okay, so again, that's I will redirect. I did cover that in about 30 seconds. I don't think it's relevant, but maybe they know something I don't. This will redirect you there, so feel free to go do hashtag Nobbins raid. Until next time, guys, thank you so much for watching, and I'll catch you guys later tonight for the watch along. Goodbye, guys.